Cursed Flight 800. Welcome to this chilling tale based on real events. Trans World Airlines Flight 800 took off from JFK Airport on July 17, 1996, but never reached its destination. What happened that night remains a mystery, one that we will relive today in this terrifying story. Get ready to uncover the dark truth behind the cursed Flight 800. John F. Kennedy Airport is bustling with usual activity, but something feels off. A faint, intermittent buzzing echoes through the security cameras. In the cockpit, Captain Ralph Kevorkian and his crew make final preparations, unaware of what is to come. Elderly passenger whispering to a flight attendant, "Miss, something is wrong with this flight. Don't worry. Everything is in order." The 747 takes off, but in the passenger cabin, some begin to feel uneasy. Lights flicker, and a dark shadow seems to move through the aisles, disappearing before anyone can see it clearly. Young passenger to his friend, "Did you see that? There was someone standing in the aisle, but they vanished." In the cockpit, the instruments flicker momentarily. Flight engineer Oliver Creek watches in horror as the screens glitch, displaying distorted figures. Engineer Campbell, "What the hell was that?" In the passenger cabin, a muffled scream comes from the lavatory. A flight attendant goes to investigate, but when they open the door, it's empty, except for the words, "You shouldn't be here," etched onto the mirror in a black, sticky substance. The flight reaches 13,700 feet. Suddenly, a blast shakes the aircraft, but instead of disintegrating as the official reports claimed, the plane enters a dark dimension where the stars seem to bleed and shadows stretch toward the passengers. Flight attendant screaming, "We're not falling. We're sliding into something." Time distorts. Passengers see twisted versions of themselves sitting in their seats. The elderly man from earlier weeps silently, murmuring, "We can't escape." From another plane, Captain David McLean of East Wind Airlines sees a bright light, but instead of an explosion, he watches in horror as Flight 800 dissolves into shadows. Captain McLean, with a trembling voice, "Tower, Flight 800 just disappeared." Silence on the radio. Over the Atlantic, where wreckage should have been, there is nothing. Years later, the NTSB investigates the tragedy. In the reconstruction of the fuselage, they find one last message recorded in the black box, whispered by dozens of voices. "We are still here." In 2021, when the wreckage is finally destroyed, a warehouse worker sees shadows moving among the debris. Before the flames consume the remains, one last transmission appears on the building's radio. Flight 800 never reached its destination. The final image shows the memorial dedicated to Flight 800. The camera slowly pulls away as the narrator's voice returns. The mystery of Flight 800 lives on. Was it just an accident, or something far more sinister? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. The Cursed Flight 823. On July 9th, 1964, United Airlines Flight 823 took off from Philadelphia International Airport, bound for Huntsville, Alabama. On board were 35 passengers and 4 crew members. The first part of the journey proceeded normally. However, after taking off from Washington, D.C., en route to Knoxville, everything changed. Flight 823 reported its position as it passed over Holston Mountain and requested to descend. From the ground, witnesses claimed to have seen a bright red light on the side of the plane, followed by brown stains that looked like burns. In a terrifying turn, 2 residents reported seeing a human figure fall from the aircraft before it crashed into a hillside in a ball of fire. When rescue teams arrived at the crash site, the scene was nightmarish. There were no survivors. The bodies were unrecognizable, and the debris was scattered over a 1 square mile radius. Among the wreckage, the investigation revealed a series of unsettling anomalies. The fire extinguishing equipment had been used in an unconventional manner, and the cabin appeared to have been intentionally depressurized. But the most disturbing detail was the body of the fallen passenger. His expression reflected indescribable horror, and his hands were clenched as if he had tried to grasp something invisible. As the investigation progressed, witnesses who had seen the plane before the crash recounted hearing inhuman screams coming from the cabin. Others claimed to have seen shadows moving inside the fuselage, despite the aircraft being thousands of meters in the air. Among the wreckage, a fragment of the cockpit voice recorder was recovered. Though severely damaged, experts managed to restore part of the audio. In the final transmission, the crew's heavy breathing and an incomprehensible murmur could be heard. Then, a scream of pure terror and the trembling voice of Captain Oliver Sabka saying, "They're not alive! They're not alive!" The origin of the fire was never definitively determined, but in the years that followed, locals reported strange apparitions near the crash site. Faceless shadows, screams echoing in the night, and a staggering figure in the charred uniform of an aviator. They say that on the quietest nights, if one gets too close to the site, they can hear a whisper in the wind, murmuring, "They're not alive." The mysteries of Flights 800 and 823 lives on. Was it just an accident, or something far more sinister? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy horror stories based on real events, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us for more terrifying tales. Don't forget to like and share this video with fellow mystery lovers. See you in the next story, if we're still here.